Okay. Got a lot of options for events. And there's some value, certainly, in just straight up taking a event that costs a lot. That way we're not risking maxing out our stats. Granted, I mean, at the level our stats are currently at, are we risking maxing them out in any case? Probably not. Simultaneously with these sorts of games, you know, maybe we want to really try to angle for Lavina. Get that up there. So we get through a whole, like, story arc. I think for now, we'll keep Jesse in our back pockets. If these stats get out of control, we'll probably go for Jesse's event just to knock a lot of them down. But for now, I think we can go for the patience with Lavina. Sarah, might I come in? Of course. Lavina walked through the door to Sarah's rooms, her hands primly clutching a notebook, as an older woman might carry a handbag. I wish to speak with you on the subject of Monsieur Dufarage, the French master. You did not correct him when he said that you were French. Well, I mean, I'm half French, I guess. Sarah blinked, not expecting questions in this direction. It seemed a very small thing to bring up again so suddenly. She tried to remember what had actually been said. I believe he meant it as a compliment. It would have been impolite to protest. Besides, I am every bit as much French as I am English. My mother was French. Lavina cut her off at once. You are not your mother. That is... I'm not saying anything against your mother, of course. But whether she was a grand Paris lady or a common merchant's daughter, that should not matter. She is not you. You're an English girl, being given an English education. There's no need for you to be marked as anything less. Well, there's nothing wrong with being French. Well, the French have done some amazing things in their day. I mean, heck, this is even before the Franco-Prussian War and the World Wars, where French became like the laughingstock of Europe for surrendering and whatnot. Because really, it's exclusively World War II that they get that for. And obviously the Franco-Prussian War is kind of a disaster, but World War I, the French held their own. I'm telling you, actually, any French viewers watching, really, for your country's standing in the international order, you should be hoping for World War III to break out, because as soon as the next major war breaks out and your country is hopefully actually a decent player and doesn't get conquered in a week this time, hopefully, then the new laughingstock will be whoever got steamrolled this time. Maybe it'll be Austria or something, Italy, perhaps. Yeah, probably Italy. So I'm just saying, if you're French, you should be trying to start World War III. Please, actually, no, don't do that. You got nukes. That's scary. Marked? I don't feel marked, and I don't think that being French is anything less than being English. We are in England. Gentlemen wish good English girls. Anything other is by definition less. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to get this. So she's saying, we're in England. Okay. Fact check true. Gentlemen wish good English girls. So she's saying in a courting sense, like the gentlemen of England wish to wed with English girls. I could see it. And therefore, to conform to the standards of romance and courtship, you should attempt to be as English as possible so as to appeal. That being said, I mean, granted, I don't really know what the kind of standards were in Victorian England as to what exactly people were looking for in a respective spouse. But if modern society is anything to go off of, there always seems to be a segment of the population, at least, that's kind of interested in the foreign girls, if you know what I mean. I don't think that's true, but I do think Lavina believes it, or else that she thinks society believes it.
It would be different if you were foreign nobility, though even that would be suspect in some circles. To succeed in society, you must be English to the core.
She says this, but I mean, and granted, I know she specifically just excluded nobility, but England has a long history of non-English, well, nobility specifically, but like if you look at the crown of England, right, you've got the French conquer it in the Norman conquest with William the Conqueror. I believe the current dynasty in England, which I think is the same one that would have been going on during the Victorian era, is actually German in origin. I think they held the lands of, like, I would say the, like, Duchy of Brunswick for a while, in addition to their English lands. I think this is sort of one of the King George eras. I mean, I think there was even a time where the English basically invited over the Dutch royal family to come take over the country because they hated Catholics that much. Not to mention that time when the Scots inherited the throne of England. It's like, and granted, this is the case with a lot of European history, probably a lot of history in general, of foreigners coming in and taking over the positions of high authority. Right? I mean, you had the Mongols took over China at one point, installed their own kind of dynasty for a bit there. You had in France when Napoleon was Corsican. That's not really traditional like French ancestry there. Among many other examples. Catherine the Great was German. Anyways, but yeah. I'm just saying, and granted, maybe it's different in different levels of society, but certainly at the highest rung of society, I don't think there was actually that much racism and sort of xenophobia between like the great houses of Europe, at the very least. Yeah, now maybe you get down to like your normal like peasant working the fields out in Bavaria, and they're like, oh, them darn Hungarians, they're can't even stand up to the Ottomans properly. Now we gotta get drafted to go save Vienna or something, but I don't know. And heck, you get to like World War I, and it's like the heads of state of like all the different countries are all like one big dysfunctional family. Right, I think the Kaiser and the King of England and the Tsar of Russia were all like cousins at that point. So I think she's being... what I'm saying here, basically, is I think even for the time period, she's being overly cautious with regards to, different nationalities. And another thing, too, is, I mean, and look, I'm not endorsing this perspective. Maybe it'd be different to an extent if it's... or seen different culturally in this time period if it's like, oh, I'm half Nigerian or something. Again, not saying this is my belief, I'm saying this... I'm describing this time period that the game is set in. But I mean, half French is basically half English. Like, they're very similar ethnically and status-wise at the world stage too, right? I mean, this is a time period where both are very well respected and powerful nations in their own right. So. Lavina took a seat upon one of Sara's comfortable chairs and looked around the little room with all its imported treasures.
Right now, because you are young and not expected to know the language so well, it makes you a novelty. A charming ornaments like your tiger skin rug. A well-bred English lady should speak at least a little French to show that she is cultured, but not to be French herself.
All of a sudden, Lavina gave a wicked smile, relaxing her perfect posture.
Did you know Miss Minchin can't speak French at all? Not even a little bit.
Yep. Kinda noticed that.
What? Oh yes, I dare say she's just as hopeless as Ermengarde, although she's desperate to hide it. What a flaw for the proprietor of a school for polishing young ladies. How do you know? My French is not anywhere near as good as yours, but I can put a few sentences together. I've said certain things in her hearing, and she has shown no reaction. Lavina insulted Miss Minchin in French? No, surely she wouldn't dare. Not when she's so concerned with being proper. Though, I mean, I guess, if a tree falls in the woods and no one's around to hear it, doesn't make a sound. If you insult someone that it's not in a language they can understand, have they been insulted? You should have seen her face when you began speaking so fluently to Monsieur du Farage. Miss Minchin started in her chair as if she had been jabbed with pins. I did not mean to jab her with pins. She'll never admit that she resents you, of course. That would be far too ill-bred. I don't wish for her to resent me. I do not wish for to make an enemy of anyone. You can't be friends with everyone, Sarah, especially not with those who are beneath you. They will always resent you for what you have and what they do not. Miss Minchin will always praise us in all our endeavors because we are young ladies from good families, and she benefits from our wealth. It doesn't mean that she cares for us. I think that is a very lonely way of seeing the world.
Lavina shook her head slowly with a smile that was decidedly smug about her greater experience of society.
That is how things are.
She leaned forward in her seat, lowering her voice.
You should be careful of Monsieur de Farage as well. He seems very fond of you, but if an unrelated man takes too much of an interest in a young girl, it might look inappropriate.
Man, I gotta... Not only need to look out for people being racist, now I gotta look out for people trying to groom me.
Do not be alone with him. You should always have a chaperone to protect your virtue.
I mean, well, I guess I don't really know him that well. I'd hate to think the worst of my, French teacher, but... Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's always a concern. Something to have in the back of the mind, at least. Man, is this what it's like being a woman? This sucks. Satisfied, she returned to an upright posture.
You understand why I'm telling you all these things, don't you, Sarah? I'm your role model, and you are my responsibility. I'd help you be happy and successful in your life as an Englishwoman. We are two of a kind, you and I. Once you've settled in, I think we'll be very good friends.
Sarah smiled, but her heart was not in it.
I don't wish to be a successful Englishwoman. I wish to return home to my papa. Even when Lavina is trying to be friendly, I'm not certain that I like her.
I have to say, so far I think this game is taking decent advantage of its being a period piece. Right? Because I think and it feels like people do this a lot, kind of contemporarily, like right now, in kind of the last maybe decade or so. But there's this idea that of I'm not sure what it is. Is it, being too cautious to offend? Is it cancel culture? Is it just people being mindful? But I do think there's a bit of an issue with modern culture in that I feel like a lot of the times, especially in period pieces, we still will implant current understanding of stuff in the period. When I do think you can have a much richer experience and get a lot more out of it and really kind of understand the history of humanity and the struggles with which we have faced for generations upon generations, when you don't kind of mask up and cover all of the unpleasantness of a given time period, but rather sort of explore it, present these characters with perspectives that would have been appropriate given the time, and really explore that psychology. How did they get to that point? What are the flaws in that? And why might a reasonable person have come to these conclusions at the time? And sort of delve into that psychology. I just think it's an interesting approach to writing, honestly. Stay together now, girls. Keep in line and don't step in any puddles. Just because church is over is no excuse to soil your nice dresses.
There smells very different when it has rained. It still smells like London. There are too many people and chimneys and horses. I keep lavender sachets in my room so I can smell the gardens even when I'm away from home. They're not much. My Aunt Eliza sent me the flowers. I stitched them myself. We have lavender in India too. Oh, but isn't lavender an English flower? I thought everything in India would be like saffron and spices. Perhaps the British soldiers brought lavender with them so that they could smell the gardens too. Do you think that soldiers could be homesick? Of course, soldiers must be very brave and bear all sorts of dangers and hardships, but that doesn't mean they don't have feelings. And we must be brave too, even when we are far from the homes and the people that we love.
A carriage passed alongside Miss Minchin's students as they walked seemingly packed to the walls with children. 8 of them, siblings all, and such a giggling mass of blonde curls and rosy cheeks as Sara had never seen before. Their merriment was infectious, and Sara found that a smile had come unexpectedly to her face. As such came as a slight shock when the carriage moved along, and revealed a sight previously hidden on the other side of the street. A little beggar child, in a heap of rags too dirty for Sara to tell if it was a boy or a girl. Pricked by the sight, Sara stepped out of line and carried her little coin purse to the child.
Sara, wait! Where are you going? Here is a 6pence. Go and buy yourself something warm.
She hurried back into formation, but not before her steps were noticed by Miss Minchin. Sara Crewe, you must stay in line. If you go rushing off, you will put yourself at risk. I should not like to tell your father that you were struck down by a cab horse in the road.
I only wished to...
Generosity is a virtue, but it is not wise or safe to come in close contact with creatures of the streets. You must be careful to clean yourself thoroughly when we return to school.
Yes, Miss Minchin.
Sara looked back, but the beggar child had already disappeared from sight.
How strange that one child should be hungry and dirty on the streets, one other rides in a fine carriage and knows nothing but joy and laughter. And all these things happen quite by accident, because of the way that we are born.
Okay, we could use some more grace, I think. This could be good. Write in the diary for grace. Or no, that's for belief. It's for some faith. Grace. Guess dance could be good for grace. I'd rather have some vigor first. How are you getting the vigor, though? Probably from playing with toys, but toys have a really high chance of getting artistry, which we're already maxed out on, so we don't really need that. Perhaps a tea party makes more sense, gets the sympathy up. There's a chance for grace and faith, too. Reading a book could be fine. Some more knowledge. I don't think we need it urgently, but it's not bad to have. Let's say double tea party. Write in diary. And then maybe we go for perhaps practice dance. A chance to double all of the vigor. Which at that point, I mean, we could get a vigor. We could have up to 2 vigor at that point. Could be worthwhile. That's not what you want to see. It could be better. Alright, getting the sympathy up. Not bad. Okay, we doubled all of our vigor, which was nothing. Okay. It's fine. Not a bad week. Got 1 knowledge, 1 artistry, 2 patience, 1 grace, and 4 sympathy. Okay, our sympathy's at max, so we probably want to spend that if we can. Even from a distance, there was no mistaking Lottie's shrill little voice. I want to hold the kitty!
Don't be ridiculous.
Sara came into the room to find Lavina perched primly in a window seat, looking down at the smaller child whose lips was beginning to wobble.
Tybalt is in my lap and is perfectly content there. Listen, you can hear him purr. That is because I am stroking him, and he likes me.
I want to hold the kitty!
Keep your sticky little fingers away from his fur.
Lottie's brow furrowed in fierce determination. Ignoring Lavina's commands, she reached out to pick up the cat. Lavina slapped Lottie's hand away. The sudden movement jostled Tybalt out of his comfortable doze. With a parting squeeze of his claws, he leapt from Lavina's legs and hurried out of the room. Now look what you've done, you little brat. He scratched me, and if he damaged my dress. He scratched me because you're mean. You wouldn't even let me touch it. This isn't fair. It isn't. A cat is not a rag doll. You cannot snatch and tug at it as you please, or it'll bite your hand. Is it too difficult for a child of 8 to understand? She can't help being younger any more than we can help being older. If she's 8, she's 8, but she'll be 9 the next year, and 10 the year after that, and 12 years she'll be 20, and that is quite grand. Dear me, how we can calculate. I don't want to be 20! You will be when you are, and you won't be while you aren't, so there's no reason to want or not to want. No, no, no! Be quiet or she'll slap your face. You mustn't. Lottie looked into Lavina's blazing eyes, then ran from the room, wailing at the unfairness of it all. You're not a baby here, Sarah. Just learn that she can't have everything her own way. Privately, Sarah thought that Lottie was not the only student at the school who might need to learn that lesson. Okay, I think you gotta... When you got maxed out simply, we gotta do something about that. I do want to get the Mariette events going a bit, too. I guess Jessie could be a way to kind of deal with that. Or we could just do Lavina this round again. And just not get sympathy this week. Just avoid it. Sure. I don't want to focus too much on one, but this seems to be going fine so far. Here, Tybalt, come to me, come here. The cat eyed her from across the room, but made no move to approach. You can't call a cat as if he were a particularly stupid child. It's beneath his dignity. He'll come when he wishes, or not at all. The other girl tisked and continued to beckon. You're just a sweet little kitty, aren't you? Here, Tybalt, come here. He isn't listening to you. He is. I saw his ears twitch when I said his name. Maybe I'm too high up. Cats pay more attention to things on their level, don't they? Do you wish to be on the same level as a pet? Sarah entered the room to find Jessie kneeling on the floor, cooing and curling her fingers in Tybalt's direction. His eyes tracked her motions, but he came no closer. What are you doing? Jessie is attempting to demonstrate her skill with animals. Jessie climbed to her feet and shook out her hair. I'm not as good at Tybalt as you are, Lavi, but I'm trying. If you had a cat in the future, I would want to be sure that she liked me. Why she? Why not? I mean, there isn't an actual cat yet, so one is the same as the other, isn't it? I'd like to have a she-cat. She-cats mean kittens, and that can be a problem. Oh, but kittens are darling! Not when you don't know what to do with them all. In the countryside, they sweep extra kittens up into sacks and drown them. Sheesh, Lavina. I mean, that might be the case, but did you have to, tell us about it? Drown them? You wouldn't. I would certainly rather not, which is an argument against she-cats. Well, perhaps not every cat wants to have kittens. It's kind of one could argue the biological imperative, so. Nature takes its course. In the midst of this discussion, as if finding the subject distasteful, Tybalt rose and softly padded out of the room. Oh, there he goes. Well then, there's your chance. Let's see if you can coax him to come back without picking him up and carrying him. Jessie nodded, accepting the challenge, and tiptoed away after the cat, murmuring endearments. Lavina made a show of looking incredibly bored by the proceedings before turning her attention to Sara.
I wonder, are there cats in India?
Ooh, different music. Wouldn't you know? I thought you were from. Sarah was startled. It was the first time Lavina had willingly raised the subject of India.
Perhaps that is why she sent Jessie away, so that we would not be heard. You do not remember then? I was very young when I came to England. I do not remember anything at all. This is my home. Most parents want to keep their children near them as long as possible. I would have stayed forever if I could. Why was Lavina sent away? Well, there are the tigers, of course, but people can't keep those. Of course not. They are far too proud to be tamed. There are hunting leopards, which great Rajas keep. Papa said they are used to chase gazelles, like the English men use staghounds to hunt deer. But they have to trap the wild leopards first. Leopards never have kittens when they live with humans. I don't know why. Maybe they need more privacy. That would solve some problems. I'd like to have my own hunting cat.
She rubbed her hands together with an expression of wicked pleasure that made Sara feel herself in sympathy to the gazelles. All of a sudden, Lavina frowned.
Of course, I'm nothing like a that word. What about smaller cats then? Well, I can say about everyone. India has a very large place, but my ayah said that cats in the house are unlucky and sly. People don't want them. Superstitious nonsense. Serves them right if they're overrun by snakes and mice. It isn't overrun, actually. Sara, I'm certain that your father kept a clean and well-ordered house. Of course you were not overrun with pests. You were pampered and protected as you should be. That does not mean the rest of India is not a festering swamp. The native people's lives are not like yours.
She tossed her hair.
Thank you for your time. I'm going to find Jessie now. Alright.
Sara watched her go, a tiny frown lingering in her absence.
Leland understands that not everyone is so lucky as to be born into a life like hers or mine. But she just doesn't care? Would you like to sit in front of the mirror while I brush your hair, mademoiselle? Oh, I don't think so. Not by the mirror. You see, it is nice to sit and think while you run the brush through my hair. Sometimes I remember stories or think of things I want to say to someone else. Other times it helps you relax. It must be like that for Tybalt when someone is petting him. But if I were looking into the mirror, then the Sara in the mirror would be looking back at me, and we should have to pay attention to each other, or else we might be thought impolite.
Mariette laughed in the back of her throat.
That is as you wish. I thought of doing something different with your hair, and if you could see, then you would know more quickly if you thought yes or no, and I could change it if you did not like it. Well, I think that it's better to look at it when it's finished. If you stop reading a book in the middle, you might have the wrong idea of what it's all about. Then I will show you when I am done. Mariette is so kind. I'd be terribly lonely in these rooms without her. The school's so full of other girls, but they're like me, guests of Miss Minchin. We live in the same house, but they're not part of my household. Mariette is the only person who belongs to me. It is nice to sit and think while she brushes my hair, and she has a better way with it than my old ayah did. But I do miss my papa so. If he were here, if he were coming to visit me, as some girls' parents do, how happy my life would be. I wonder where my papa is now. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to speak. No, it is good, mademoiselle. You should speak your thoughts. Your father said many weeks ago. Well, now he is in India, yes? Home and safe. And thinking how different the house seems without your footsteps. Oh, I don't want to think of him so sad and lonely. It is right that he misses you, and that you miss him. That is how things should be. But that does not mean your life has nothing but sadness, does it? No, I do not think I am melancholy. I have not wished to be. I enjoy my books and my friends. So you will see, your papa, he will be lonely, but he will also feel other things. He will live his life, but he will also think of you. I believe you will hear from him very soon. Oh, I hope you're right. No, you must be right. My papa will write me letters as soon as the ships can carry them, and I will treasure his words. Oh, I hope. I just realized it's a distinct possibility that he might, like, the ship might sink on the way to India. Oh, that would be dreadful. And I do hope that my papa has a friend to care for him as Mariette cares for me.
Surely don't go there. Okay. Alright, we don't need artistry, we don't need sympathy. So, get rid of the tea parties. I guess reading a book is unlikely to give us artistry. Dance is decent. The issue with dance is there's a possibility of double all the vigor, which isn't really helpful, especially after we just read books. We could play with toys. That's not really great. I say we maybe do like 3 dance practices. We don't really need the artistry though. 2 dance practices and maybe then go for a walk and see what happens. Okay. The worst one, twice in a row. Thanks. Oh, come on! Quit giving me artistry! That's gonna double all of it, I'm sure. Okay, that one's fine. Actually, that was the best. We got 5 artistry, which translates to 0. 2 knowledge, 1 vigor, 1 patience, and 3 grace.